Magalhaes to Stokes, who's onside. 1-0.
Here's Sims. It's a good serve this from Southampton. They could finish the job here. It's Shane Long, and he has done it. Just a minute to play. Plus stoppage time. Here's Letizia. Who better to say farewell than one of the finest players ever to wear the red and white.
Hello and welcome. This is episode 69 of the Saints FC podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to have on the line Mr. Tom Parker. Tom, how the devil are you?
I'm very good, John. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite chipper. I've had to drag myself away from the Brexit debate happening on the BBC Parliament channel that my wife is watching.
Riveting.
Yeah, having just watched Ken Clark, speaking to Jacob Rees-Mogg about the rules of Parliament and this, that, and the other. So, I'm aware that there's going to be some people watching us live, choosing us over the House of Commons, which, of course, is the most sensible thing you can do with your Tuesday night on the 3rd of September 2019.
Well, I think you're better dressed than Rees-Mogg.
Yeah, fortunately, we're not doing this with the video today. So, Tom, there is one other thing you could do that is even more sensible than listening to the Saints FC podcast. Well, I don't know. Maybe just a little bit less sensible than listening to the Saints FC podcast, but very important that you do it. And that is get yourself some free beer from Beer 52. Free
beer is the best beer, John.
Yeah, free beer. Shall I tell you about it, Tom? Do you want to know more?
Please, always, John, always.
Okay, head to Beer52, that's BEER, number 5, number 2.com /Saints. And that will take you to our very special offer that we have got for you listeners of the Saints FC podcast, which is a box of 10 free beers, crafty beers, sent and curated by beer experts who've been travelling around the universe trying to find the best beer in the world, and then kind of curating it into a little box for you. And in that box, I also got some beef jerky and a magazine about craft beer, Tom.
That is a good night in, that is,
John. 10 bottles of beer and some beef jerky. So anyway,
maybe more than one night in, 10 bottles.
Yeah, I mean, what's even better? You could just like start sharing, couldn't you? Share the beers with other people. I think that's probably the nicest thing that you can do when you've got that many beers. Anyway, so that's beer52.com /Saints for your free beers. Oh, I say free with a little bit of an asterisk. You do have to pay for the postage, which is £4.95, but that's fairly reasonable, isn't it? If someone's going to give you free beer,
very reasonable.
Yeah, you're willing to pay the postage for it. And it is a subscription service, but you don't have to stick in for the whole subscription. You can cancel after the first month if you don't like the beers or if you don't want to continue on with the subscription. But what we need to do, Tom, is continue on with the podcast. And there's some very, very important business to get through. Should we start with the League Cup?
Let's do that, John. Wait, are we playing anyone significant? Can you give me some details?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Did you notice it? I mean, I just thought you wanted to talk about that absolutely fantastic victory that we had away to high-flying Fulham and the Michael Obafemi goal. Is that not the case?
We can talk about it. We can also. I think we're playing a certain team beginning with P, aren't we? They're from down the road.
Peterborough, yes. Yeah, our old foes.
Well, Plymouth for you, John.
Plymouth, yeah. Oh, it's not our really big rivals, is it? Northampton.
Or Bournemouth, as they would love us to be. No, it's not. It's the big one, John. It's the one we've all been waiting for.
Oh yes. That is right. For any Saints FC podcast listener who has not experienced this before, Southampton versus Portsmouth. It is the absolute big one. I can't wait. Can you?
No, I was at the last one. I think I was at the last one of these games, and the atmosphere is I think I've been to two of them, and the atmosphere is just beyond belief. This one's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, so have you ever managed to actually get to Fratton Park, or have you just been to the ones at St Mary's or the Dell even?
No, so I went to one at the Dell.
Yeah.
And I went to one at St Mary's. The one at the Dell, I don't remember much. I know we won, and I think that if anyone's got a really good memory about obscure Saints players, I think we had a guy called Andy Williams. He was like a promising winger. I might be making this up. He came on and almost scored. And I remember that was the sort of highlight that I really remember. But I was at St Mary's, and I'm pretty sure it was when Billy Sharp scored. And Portsmouth equalised with one of the youth team players, and they went absolutely mad. Like they were nuts and lost it. And it was when Saints were high flying and Portsmouth were in big financial problems. And you don't often use the word febrile, but that's the only way you can describe it, John.
Tom, you always use the word febrile. You love it. It's one of your favourites.
It is a good word.
Yeah.
But John, have you been to any of them?
Yeah, I've been to a couple. I've been to the ones at St Mary's, basically. All the home ones we've had at St Mary's, I think, I've been to. Probably my favourite was it? Did we beat them 3-0 when Marian Pajas scored that absolutely wonderful goal, kind of cutting in and kind of curling it into the far corner? Do you remember that one, Tom?
I don't know if I do. I mean, we always tonk them, don't we? I don't want to jinx anything, but we always win, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, that one I went to actually, St Mary's, it was actually 1-1. So
was it 1-1?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Billy Sharp one. I
Yeah.
tell you what, another one which was really good was the one in the FA Cup. Was it when Harry Redknapp was our manager? And Peter Crouch had a penalty in the last minute in front of the chapel end. And I just remember being behind the goal and like trying to kind of suck the ball through the air to come into the goal. And it somehow worked. He just banged it in. And that was 2-1 last minute penalty winner against Portsmouth. And that at that time, it felt amazing because it felt like, Peter Crouch kind of solidly had severed his skate roots and become a Southampton legend, and Harry Redknapp had as well. Little did we know what was going to happen there in the future. So, but I mean, just those moments were just so great.
Just looking here, I'm just trying to look. I think maybe that Billy Sharp game was 2, or I can't remember. I think it might have been.
Yeah,
2012.
That was the one when we were in our championship promotion season, wasn't it? And Portsmouth were on their way down, and we drew both games in the league that season. And I remember chatting to Richard Chaplow about this, who was one of the players who was leading the chants when we got promotion from League One, chanting, "We're coming for you, you dirty skate whatsits, we're coming for you," being led by the players. But that's probably my only regret would be that, in that season where we went up from the Championship and they got relegated, that we didn't absolutely destroy them in those games. I mean, obviously getting promoted to the Premier League was great, but obviously beating Portsmouth as well would have been absolutely fantastic. And so anyway, we're 7 years later on. This is our chance, isn't it, Tom? I mean, we are such a better team than Portsmouth. Hasenhüttl's got us playing well. He's got to take this game seriously, hasn't he?
The frustrating thing, going back to the Championship games, we didn't lose out in the Championship, do we, by many points, only a handful of points. And if we'd have tonked Portsmouth on both times, we'd have. Not only would we have had the glory of being Portsmouth twice, but we'd also probably pipped Reading to the league. But You're right. I mean, Ralph has to get the players motivated. I guess it's in these sort of times of, I don't want to sound like an old man, of sort of foreign imports and picking young players, the best young players in the world to come and play for your team. You wonder how easy it is to get players psyched up for a local derby like this. I remember when that game, the last game I was at, the Saints Pompey, Billy Sharp, he obviously, from Sheffield, big local derbies was a big part of what he did. And the Saints players seemed as engaged in it as the fans. But you'd hope that Ralph can really get them going. And my only fear is that, we do that thing, which we've done in recent years, which we underestimate lower league teams in cup competitions. We put in some of our younger players, and you wonder if the sort of quite febrile atmosphere, I can't use it again, saying I don't use it, the quite sort of fractious atmosphere intimidates them. But you'd think we've got enough in our locker to turn them over.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, I occasionally sit in the chapel. I sat in the chapel this weekend for the game against Manchester United. I do that when I'm with, sensible people like my father-in-law and people who haven't been to many kind of like Premier League games, and perhaps you wouldn't want to try and take them into the Northern for their first experience. And I just remember that even the chapel end at those derbies is just, Tom, I'm going to use your word again, it's that febrile atmosphere. and one of the things which I really remember is there's this guy with dreadlocks, and he had like all the kind of like hippie outfit, and he looked like the most chilled person you could ever come across, kind of like a bit like Neil from The Young Ones, super chilled, wouldn't say boo to a goose. And seeing him just going absolutely mad, throwing the V signs, yelling at there's something which is deep rooted in Southampton and Portsmouth fans with their distaste for each other and their excitement for this fixture. And, I am absolutely excited. I know I'm not going to be able to get a ticket because, what is it to get an away ticket at Portsmouth? You probably have to have been to every away game for the last 10 seasons and be a season ticket holder.
And get vetted by the police and all sorts of things. Yeah. I remember at the game, the Billy Sharp game, I think Portsmouth were in their real financial difficulties, and it was a bit cruel because as the Saints, as the Pompey subs were running up and down the touchline, Saints fans were sort of getting out, sort of £20 notes and sort of waving it at the players because the players hadn't been paid and stuff like that. So it does get quite tasty, and it's I think it's definitely the best tie we could have hoped for. And if we can get a result, it could give us a really good springboard for the rest of that tournament.
Yeah. I'm just desperate. I'm desperate that we take it absolutely seriously. And I'm sure that most of our fans are. I've seen a few people on Twitter talking about how this is now the most important thing that happens this season, more important than whether we survive relegation or not, more important as to, what position we finish in the Premier League. People really, really care about this one. And I absolutely hope that Ralph Hasenhüttl and the players get that. And, that they really put in the big effort and the big performance. Do we need to talk about the actual match against Fulham itself as well?
We should cover that.
Yeah.
We should. First half, not much to talk about.
No.
I think it's safe to say, isn't it? Interesting team as well, to help. We've got a lot of players, I don't know, that sort of haven't really stepped up yet this season. I think a lot of people were surprised by the strength of two things: the sort of strength of the team that Ralph put out, and also the sort of absence of Bertrand and the absence of Jake Vokins, who a lot of people thought would be our sort of.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I just hope that that's not the sort of team that we put out, against Portsmouth, because we've got to be putting out a stronger lineup than that. It was interesting to see that Jake, the kind of like positional sense around the pitch. What was the biggest surprise for you on that?
I think the biggest part was, I think he surprised everyone by going this 4-2-2-2. It appeared to be, and I think the strength of the team. There's a number of things that work, but I think the strength of the team we put out, but then also our complete inability to finish off a very demoralised, very young Fulham team as they went towards the end. Like Danny Ings had at least 3 chances to score. Shane Long had a decent chance. But overall, it was a real mixed bag of a game, wasn't it? Because first half poor, second half good goal, I thought. And then Obafemi injured, Redmond injured. Turns out Gineppo picks up a muscle strain. And you sort of think, how does that sort of happen? I think now, the knock-on impact of that is that we did look a little bit threadbare against Man United. But overall, I think, these are tough games, and I think there was an argument that a few years ago, certainly under Hughes, Pellegrino, we would have struggled, away 0-0 at half-time under the floodlights at Fulham with a young team. But I think with Ralph, he's embedded in enough professionalism, enough quality to see it through and get the job done.
Yeah, which was absolutely the most important thing, and just being in that draw for the next round and that opportunity then to face Portsmouth. I mean, imagine how gutted we'd have been if we'd not got through that and then Portsmouth had drawn Fulham.
What do you bear thinking about, John?
Yeah.
You're devastated.
Yeah, I mean, it's also an interesting point going back to those injuries because, Redmond, Djenepo, Obafemi all injured as a result of that game against Fulham. But then also, if you look at the lineup against Fulham, the kind of one player who was really playing out of position on Saturday was Kevin Danse. And the left back was already a problem for us in the game against Fulham as well, because, with Bertrand injured, we had, I think it was Højbjerg filling in for left back, didn't we?
It was Højbjerg, yeah. And he played really well. But it's strange. We've left ourselves very light. I think losing Target was obviously something that a lot of Saints fans probably felt comfortable with because he didn't seem to fit into our sort of gung-ho style. And the Danse signing, Danse looks pretty good at left back, but he's clearly not a natural left back. And we've left it a little bit late. And I think Bertrand's had this before, where Bertrand's had these sort of injuries that no one sort of knows what they are, but they seem to go on for sort of 6-7 weeks at a time. So hopefully we'll see him back in time for the Sheffield United game. But it was a strange thing playing Højbjerg at left back. But he acquitted himself well.
Yeah, he did do quite well there. And then obviously I suppose one of the things then we had kind of Ward-Prowse and Romeo kind of doubling up as the defensive midfielders. That's not what Ralph chose to do against Manchester United. So he had Romeo and Højbjerg as the defensive midfielders, and then James Ward-Prowse a little bit further up on the right-hand side. And then Boufal also a little bit further up, kind of replacing, replacing kind of Redmond or Djenepo. Mm-hmm. And then with Ings and Adams up front. So, I mean, again, it was quite a funny lineup, not so much, I suppose, in the formation, because we now know that Ralph likes to play this 4-2-2-2. But certainly in personnel, it seemed a little bit weird. But then from watching us starting against Manchester United, I mean, I thought we actually started out pretty well. I mean, all the commentary and all the reports will tell you that Southampton were dreadful in the first half, but the first 10 minutes, I thought we were absolutely fantastic. We were all over Manchester United. They could not deal with our high press at all. And Sofiane Boufal managed to get a really good chance and quite a good shot away, which just went inches past the post in that first 10 minutes. And at that point, I thought, well, we're totally in the ascendancy here. We're going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, we really took the game to them, and I think it showed the energy. And I think Ralph is absolutely right, which is that they've got two fairly slow centre backs. They do like to play out from the back. And, players like Pogba are a bit of a luxury, so if you can get at them. But at the same time, we do seem to lack, and maybe this will come as the season settles down a little bit, we seem to lack a sort of just that final ball, just that bit of quality at the moment. And I think it kind of showed that we couldn't, we had to score, didn't we? And in that sort of 11 minutes, we had to take the opportunity, but we didn't. And we had, again, quite an interesting team selection. Valerie on the bench when, many would have thought if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you should be fit enough to start. We played Cedric, who did look a bit rusty. And, we got punished, really. As soon as Man United sort of came out of their slumber a little bit, we got punished with a hell of a goal, Dan. I mean, John, you were there. How good was it?
Well, I mean, the finish was great. We were in the chapel stand, so we saw it up close. But the space that we gave Daniel James was really quite shocking. And, I mean, my theory is that there's something kind of lost in the confusion between James Ward-Prowse and Cedric in terms of the defensive responsibilities, because as soon as I think it was when Mata passed around went around the outside of Daniel James, Cedric went with him, and then there was nobody going for Daniel James, at which point he just kind of sauntered into the box. And you'd expect anyone half decent to be able to kind of drill in a decent shot from where he was with the space and time that he had, but he did do it absolutely brilliantly. I think he's done it a couple of times this season already. He's a very young, very talented player. I think most people will probably remember Daniel James for that game he played against Manchester City in the League Cup or the FA Cup last season, where he kind of like sauntered through the whole Man City midfield and then scored a goal. He's a really good player, and he's not the kind of player that we should be giving that much space.
And also, so he was always going to shift it, wasn't he, onto his right foot? That was always going to be the thing, and it was almost a bit like a training ground goal.
Yeah.
How simple it was.
I thought you were going to say with how static the Saints, the defensive players were, standing around like cones.
Yeah, Cedric turning his back on it, and I think it kind of showed that we can, there's no doubt we can press, and there's no doubt we can, get into spaces and be aggressive, but we do still lack a little bit of quality. And I was watching Mata on Saturday, and like, he's just such a wonderful player, isn't he? He's just such a wonderful footballer, and what he does with the ball. He's not always on the ball, but if there's some sort of ratio for the amount of at times he hurts clubs, the amount of time he has on the ball, the amount of passes he actually makes, he's just such an intelligent player. And what we would give for just someone with that little bit more, I think, patience in midfield, just the ability just to make that killer pass. We have lots of people who are sort of full throttle runners, but we just maybe when teams sit back a little bit, we just lack someone who can just sort of thread it through the eye of a needle.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, we do kind of play this absolute panic football. We try and make the opposition panic and give the ball away to us, which we're quite good at doing. But then as soon as we get the ball, we're still in that kind of mode of panic. And, everyone's panicking and nobody knows what's going to happen. And then
is it a bit like watching Albert play football at times?
I think
Albert and his mates.
I think Albert, my 4-year-old son, is sometimes a little bit more composed on the ball. He takes his time a little bit more. Yeah.
But yeah, we do. I mean, we, and it's quite interesting because we didn't really have many good chances. Something on Match of the Day. Jermaine Jennings was saying, he was pointing out Man United. Man United, Solskjaer was saying, well, we had lots of really good chances, but actually he was pointing out that most of the Man United chances were half chances. I'd agree with the same thing about Saints, wasn't it? There was lots of slashing at the ball and snapshots and things like that, but there wasn't really, apart from the goal, there wasn't really something you'd say we're definitely going to score that.
No, I mean, there were a couple of moments where we put it across the box, I think, in the first half, but there were also a couple of moments where Manchester United put it across our box. Rashford missed a bit of a sitter of a header, I thought. One of the things which I found really interesting, so it's being sat behind the goal, is you get a totally different perspective from when you watch it on television. I think you can see what Saints are trying to do with the 4-2-2-2 press even better when you're kind of looking at the pitch lengthways. And so that was kind of very interesting to see. And the press isn't constant as well. There's obvious triggers as to when the players all press, and you can really see it when you're sitting there watching in the stadium, because seemingly nothing will be happening, and then suddenly you'll notice that there's 5 or 6 Saints players just really pressing, whether it's the goalkeeper has got the ball or one of their centre-backs has got the ball. And then other times, nobody's pressing at all, so they're almost conserving their energy, or they're allowing the ball to kind of come back. And the other thing which I noticed is that it seemed that we were quite willing to give away possession and put the ball, I suppose, in the final third and then press. So almost like we're more comfortable with the opposition having the ball in their kind of defensive third and then pressing that than we are in actually having the ball ourselves.
Well, this is what Ralph's been saying a lot, isn't he? He's talking, you read a lot of these things about how he wants us to play, and one of the things is he thinks that the player winning the ball, it's all well and good having playmakers but the player who's actually most important is the one who can win you the ball in the final third, because that's how you're going to make. Yeah, that's how you're more likely to make chances and score goals. But I think what's interesting is obviously the energy it requires in Ings and Adams up front. You know, just that constant press. I mean, every time De Gea got near the ball, and you know, and I think if we weren't playing against two such really good centre backs, we'd have had a lot more joy. But I think you're right. The idea is obviously to press as high up the pitch as we can, and I think, you know, I've said it for a while. Saints struggle in games when they have more of the ball.
Yeah.
We seem to do much better in games where we don't have as much of it, which is a weird thing to say, but that seems my anecdotal, you know, finger in the air. What I reckon is that we're much more suited to a team that actually wants to have the ball more than us.
Yeah.
We almost seem to panic a little bit when we have the ball too much.
Yeah, or I wonder if we're going to see this thing of just like hoofing it up top and then pressing as soon as their defender picks up the ball. I mean, the problem is you come across someone like Burnley and they'll just hoof it back, and you know, Vestergaard is not very good at dealing with a long ball over the top. You know, so that's where we will have problems. One of the other things which I noticed as well is we seem to be pushing the opposition into giving away lots of throw-ins, or almost kind of us giving away lots of throw-ins, and then we pressed the throw-ins as well. But then what really excited me on the throw-in stuff was Kevin Danso got a throw in the first half.
Oh yeah,
and he I mean, is he the Premier League's answer to Rory Delap? Has the Premier League got a trebuchet back in its ranks again?
It's a real howitzer, wasn't it? Because what I loved about it was flat. You know, there wasn't that loop sort of choreographed to the goalkeeper. It was just like a cross. I mean, Danso is really interesting, isn't he? Because, like, no one has ever heard of this guy, and any English football fan who says they had is just lying. And you know, he looks like a revelation, because, all right, he's a bit rash, and, you know, he should, stupid sending it off, but he'll learn from that. And ultimately, you know, Saints weren't too heavily penalised because we still took a point from the game. But he looks very comfortable on the ball. He's big, he's strong. His cross back in for Vestergaard's header was very measured and very shrewd. And he looks a bit of a revelation. The kid's only, 20 years old, 21 years old? You know, we've managed to pick up an international centre-back who, you know, already speaks the language and already seems very comfortable. It's a bit of a find, isn't it, to say?
Yeah, I think Kevin Danso is a big find for Saints. I was really excited watching him. I mean, there were times when his attacking approach as a left-back clearly was akin to a centre-back trying to play left-back. And he looked unusual in that role, kind of like marauding forward. But he was doing pretty well marauding forward. He was able to hold on to the ball, and that wasn't so much through kind of like skill or a deft touch, but just almost through sheer bloody mindedness. And like, you know, he's strong, he's powerful. He's
almost like, get the ball off. You know, I'm so strong, just try and get the ball off. It kind of works.
It's almost like a Wanyama attitude, kind of been thrown into a wing position. It's really bizarre. But worked really well. You know what, as well with Danso, like, had he not got his sending off, you know, firstly, I think had he not got sent off, we might have won the game. I also think had he not got sent off, he might have been a shout for man of the match. Because I thought he was playing really, really well in this kind of quite unusual, obtuse, unconventional manner. But it was exciting as well. Yeah,
I think he's very interesting. I think if the ambition is to, you know, I think we'd probably love to play the 4-2-2-2, but realistically, you know, we'll need to play three at the back, and it's nice for us to have a much more comfortable on the ball left-sided centre back, because I think whilst Vestergaard has lots of skills, I do think almost it's a waste of his positional sense and his height and his strength not to have him as the centre of the three centre backs, if that makes sense. yeah, I think he's a real find, and fair play to Ralph for digging that out and for having the confidence to get it through.
Tom, I'm going to disagree with you here. Not so much on Kevin Danso, but actually on the whole playing the three at the back. I think the fact that we played four at the back against Manchester United either shows that, Ralph doesn't consider Manchester United a decent side and therefore shouldn't worry about having to play three at the back of them. But, I mean, that basically means that there's only 5 sides in the Premier League who you might rate higher than Manchester United, arguably only 4. So we're going to be seeing 4 at the back a lot more regularly. And I'm starting to worry, is the writing on the wall either for Bednarek or Vestergaard, or is the writing on the wall for Ryan Bertrand? Where is Dancer going to fit in? Because I think, having watched him play on Saturday, if he continues like that, obviously minus the crazy challenges, he's going to be forcing himself onto the team sheet, isn't he?
Well, if you think, we've still got, I think hopefully we'll come to talk about some of the players that have left in the last few days, but we've still got quite a lot of players. At centre back, we've got Stevens, Bednarek, Vestergaard, Danso, and Yoshida. So we've got like 5 centre backs, and you'd think that of those, Stevens is probably in the weakest position. I think Yoshida showed so much quality as well. I think one of the great things about Saturday is there's lots of sort of unsung heroes, and Yoshida coming on the pitch and just steadying it, and fantastic headers and really strong clearances, and providing a sort of sense of leadership at a time when we were rocking. So you're right. I don't know. I think with the number of games that we are set to play and the intensity at which we will play those games, I think you'll probably find there's space for all of those centre backs to play an important role this season, maybe apart from Jack Stevens.
Yeah, I think Jack Stevens' time is going to be pretty limited, to be honest. What do you think about kind of Ryan Bertrand? What is going on there? Is he actually injured?
I don't know. I mean, this happened last season, didn't it? Where he was out for quite some time when Target came in, sort of at the start of Ralph's reign. And they never sort of seem to say what his injury is. It's always very vague with Bertrand. And, I think everyone thought he'd be back for the Man Utd game, and obviously he wasn't. So we'll have to see. I do think he's still probably one of the few players we've got, maybe alongside Nathan Redmond, that would probably be comfortable in the top 6 team. So I do think he is still, up there with our best players. And I think in terms of, the defensive attributes he has and the ability to drive forward and create problems for the opposition, I think, we don't have a fullback of similar quality. But it'll be interesting. There's lots to talk about going in the summer, and there has been for the last few years. He's 30, I think now 31, so he's out of the England running. That ship appears to have sailed for him. And you wonder whether, if he doesn't get the game time this season, you think in the summer he'll probably look to make that one last big move, one last big paycheck. And, he's been a great servant for Saints, but I'm very much in the camp of we're better with Bertrand in the team than without him.
Yeah. And so let's shift across to the other side of defence. Cedric, I mean, you mentioned it earlier where you said if Valerie's fit enough to be on the bench, surely he's fit enough to be in the team. Isn't it incredible that in less than 12 months, Valerie is now an essential player in the Southampton first 11? Because Cedric is just nowhere near the player that Valerie is.
Yeah, I don't know. Cedric is a funny one because he doesn't seem to be the sort of like marauding winger. He also is right-footed but loves putting it back onto his left, which slows the game down just that little bit. His defensive attributes, I don't know. I don't know what he seems to be much more comfortable with sort of on the right of a 5-sided defence, and obviously that's not the way Ralph sees us playing. So Valerie, whilst he's still pretty raw and pretty inexperienced, and it's a bit like Danso, was last. Do you remember when he came in last season? Sort of, you were like, Christ, how many times is this going to get sent off? And then he sort of settled down a little bit. But you're right. I mean, the role reversal must be very strange if you're Cedric and, you're a European Championship winner and, you are a real cock of the walk. And then all of a sudden this kid just comes in. He can't get a sniff. And, he clearly hit the loan at Inter Milan, didn't work out for him. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to him because, he's clearly not first choice. But at the same time, if he's not playing right back, who have we got? If Valerie isn't playing, then it has to be Cedric because for all his strengths, it's certainly not Ward-Prowse's natural position. It's certainly not Yoshida's natural position.
No, I suppose maybe then you start to look at Kane Ramsey, and then is that too much of a burden for two very young lads to have on their shoulders? It's an interesting position, but I'm fairly confident that once Jan Valery is properly fit, you're going to see him being there more regularly. I suppose actually maybe out of all of our players, maybe Cedric is the one who can slow the ball down and pause and pick out a pass. Is he the Juan Mata of right backs now, but without quite the pedigree?
I think you're over-egging that one a little bit. I think he's a very good player, but I just don't think he kind of fits the style. And I do worry about. I know you shouldn't read too much into it, but all the players on social media that are real peacocks turn out to be a bit knobbish, don't they? Really. We'll come to some of those, but Cedric does seem to be a little bit, like particularly when Saints are in trouble. His sort of social media posts are a little bit tone deaf, and I wonder if we've spoken about this before, where Ralph is like, I would rather give me young, hungry players that are fully bought into my team ethos, rather than established internationals that are earning loads of money that think they are pretty big chops.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Cedric falls into that category.
Maybe he does. I mean, we've certainly seen a few players out the door this week with the European transfer window closing. I think we'll get onto that in a few minutes. I suppose just to kind of like finish the roundup of the Manchester United game, we had the Saints goal from the corner, which I think corners on average have about a 2% success rate. So that's 1 in 50 corners you'll actually get a goal from. So I'm not sure if this counts in that stat because it was kind of the second phase of play, wasn't it? Danny Ings had the great header, then we had the rebound out to Danso, and then Danso lobbed it in for Vestergaard to head in. So I'm not sure if we're going to have to wait another 50 corners before we see Saints score again from a corner, or if that's or if that one's a freebie because it's considered open play. So we'll have to wait and see what the answer to that is. Danny Ings, great header. Good to see him getting on target. I think he's going to get a few goals for us. Che Adams as well, also working hard, had a good chance, but missed it pretty badly. But I think it's a tough job being the strikers in a high-pressing game that Ralph is playing, because I think your probably opportunities to score goals are less frequent, and you have to work a hell of a lot harder than most strikers would ever dream of working.
Yeah, and also I think a lot of the time, because of the sort of fast turnover of the ball, it seems to be we are getting chances where our strikers aren't having a huge amount of time to think. And I was watching Aguero this afternoon when his goals against Brighton, where Aguero doesn't even need time to think; he just instantly knows what he's going to do. And Aguero is one of the best players in the world. But I wonder with we need players with a bit more composure. But Ralph has said, particularly with Che Adams, he'd be more worried if he's not so much worried about the lack of goals. He would be more worried if he wasn't getting the chances. And with Che, you almost need something needs to just hit him and go in. But I think in terms of the broader work around Che Adams, he is a player that scored 22 goals last season, but he's also a player that towards the end of last season scored 1 goal in 16 games. So Saints didn't buy the super on form, on fire Che Adams. They bought someone who, smashed the first half of the season, then had a very quiet second half, and wonder if he just needs something to go in, and I'm sure he'll really kick on. But I wonder if the sort of he's just not getting the time on the ball that maybe he was used to in the Championship.
Yeah, I mean that could certainly be the case. The other thing I want to bring up is the irony of Ashley Young being booked for time wasting Ashley Young being booked for complaining about time wasting after he was time wasting about 11 minutes into the game.
Man United were time wasting from the very beginning.
I mean, that is the crazy thing, isn't it? Even their celebration for their goal took ages. It was infuriating. They all just kind of ran up to Daniel James, took ages coming back. And then to see at the end them like desperately trying to do something about it, which I thought was quite funny. I mean, can you imagine Alex Ferguson, Manchester United, time wasting after 10 minutes into the game?
But also, he's just such a. You got to admire the guy to still be doing that at 34 years old. But he is real we could put this nicely, crap housery, isn't he? In terms of his little niggly things that he does and. I think, we shouldn't talk about other teams too much. Man United are fascinating because, we went down to 10 minutes, I think 11 minutes to bring on a substitute, bring on an attacking substitute, try and take advantage of that. And I think, you don't want to see anyone lose their job, but you've got to think Solskjaer's got to be up there for the sack race, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he is definitely not Manchester United level manager. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking that because as I was growing up, Manchester United were the best team, easily, and I just find it hard to comprehend them being so bad. But I thoroughly enjoy it.
They have a lot of very disagreeable players.
Yeah.
I think they're quite unusual. Like Lingard, even Rashford's a bit annoying. I mean, I thought it was fascinating stat the other day that Rashford went through a purple patch where he scored something like 9 goals in 12 games, and everyone was raving. Rashford has 11 goals in 70. In his other Man United career, he's had 11 goals in 72 games, which is probably on a par with what Nathan Redmond has actually probably scored over a similar, apart from that real purple patch that Rashford's had. So you do wonder how much style over substance there is on a lot of these players. If you look I have a particular dislike for Lingard because of what he did to us in the League Cup final, but and also because he's exactly the sort of Man United player that keeps good, hard-working Southampton players out of the England squad. But you wonder just how much, if these players weren't playing for Man United, how much people really would care about them. Because on Saturday, a number of players were just really poor. Huge wage earners like Matic when he came on. Pogba was pretty shambolic for a lot of the game, and they didn't look great. And I think Ralph got it right tactically. I really have to, and I think his celebration at the end, which was like, if you'd have said what's just happened to you, I think we'd have won. But I think it's because he knew that mentally to come through that game and to get a point, go down to 10 men and then just be under the cosh for 15 minutes, 20 minutes non-stop is a real achievement for Saints. And that's a game again. We would have lost that game a year ago, without doubt.
Yeah. The other thing, great to see Vestergaard getting his first goal in a Saints shirt, and also the other player that I want to mention who doesn't get mentioned a huge amount because what he does is often stops any excitement happening, so you never see him on Match of the Day or anything like that. But Oriol Romeo was absolutely immense on Saturday. I was going through his stats. I think he made 11 interceptions, 6 tackles or blocks, but it just felt like Pogba was having a nightmare, mainly because of Oriol Romeo. And then the other thing, as well as all that defensive work, he was passing like he was a Barcelona player who played under Pep Guardiola, who was really great in the small spaces, really quick, able to find the feet of the closest player to him. And he just looked like the complete package on Saturday. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. One of his best games that I've seen him play. Yeah,
I'd agree. And I don't think, I think you're absolutely right. He really bossed Pogba. And I think you're right with Vestergaard. The Vestergaard was the player that we kind of hoped we bought, and I just hope that both of them can really kick on because they're so important for us. Because they are the people that are going to win the ball back and get it, those can really take the performance, particularly Vestergaard, who didn't have a great start to the season. A lot of Saints fans, I think, are still jury's out on Vestergaard, but I think he'll have earned himself a lot of friends on Saturday.
Yeah. I don't want to get onto the question, what is a James Ward-Prowse, but I think that might have to be something that we discuss again this season, because I think he has dropped off a little bit from last season's performances, Tom, which is sad to say. But we'll save that for another. We'll save that for another episode, and let's move on to Sheffield United away. Did you manage to get tickets for this in the end, Tom? Are you going to this one?
Hypnobirthing, John.
What's that?
Hypnobirthing. It's a trendy thing.
Oh my god!
Women have in my life now. No, I would love. I'd absolutely have loved to have gone to Sheffield United. I would have absolutely loved it. But I am hoping. Are we going to try and get a form?
Tom, let's just rewind, okay? Because I've got some experience of the whole hypnobirthing thing. It's all about, like, basically, say, right, for all you listeners that like think Tom and I are now talking about some kind of stupid jargon here, hypnobirthing is this idea of getting yourself into a really relaxed state before you give birth. Now, Tom, obviously, you're not going to be giving birth any point soon, but your lovely wife will be, and you're going to be there as the support. Tom, you do realise that checking Saints results is not going to be providing that kind of like super calm atmosphere, relaxing atmosphere for your wife to be kind of getting into the state to give birth. You checking Southampton scores and, checking to see if Billy Sharp has scored against us, or seeing if Vestergaard's like now on a run, you're going to get so much. You're going to get hit, I think.
I'm going to get hit.
There's going to be like beautiful whale music playing in the background, and then you're going to go, yeah, come on. And then you're going to get smacked.
What are you doing? I'm so happy the baby's being born. So I've just done that. No, I agree, John. And I think, this is a learning curve. But baby's due on the 29th of December. I don't think there is a game that day. I have to check. I think we'll be in that sort of post-Boxing Day, pre-New Year's Day. Actually, maybe there is. I need to check on that. Either way, obviously, if Imogen is listening to this, it doesn't matter, and I'm fully committed to being engaged with the birth.
Okay. Well, good luck in your hypnobirthing class. Sheffield United away is clearly not to be, but we'll make sure we meet up at an away game soon enough. One of the things that I'm quite excited, there's two things I'm excited about seeing about Sheffield United. One is seeing Billy Sharp playing in the Premier League. That's in a general feeling. I don't want to see him playing well against Southampton. The other thing that I'm interested to see is kind of Chris Wilder, the manager, has got this like marauding centre-back tactic of overlapping centre-backs, which I think is a really interesting method of attacking. And actually, maybe that was the team that Jack Stevens should have played for, because he would have been a great attacking centre-back.
Well, he still is, when he gets the chance to go forward. Oh, Jack, he's such an enigma. But I watched a lot of the game on Saturday. They played against Chelsea, and they're a really good team. And also what I love is the players seem to have fed off the energy of the fans so much. They go absolutely mad when they score. All right, Chelsea look a bit shonky at the back, but it's not going to be an easy game for Saints. And I think if Saints can get anything from that game, I think we'd probably take a draw, because if we can just keep this unbeaten run going, draw our away games, win at home. After that we've got Bournemouth at home. I think we could win that. So we're going through a difficult set of games. We're going to come up, and I think if we can get 4 points out of the next two, I think that would be a really strong bit of business for Saints, particularly after the draw against Man Utd and the win against Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, kind of basically Sheffield the city, and watching Southampton gives me the creeps, because do you want to know what happened last time I went to watch a football game featuring Southampton in the city of Sheffield?
Please tell me, John.
Sheffield Wednesday's goalkeeper Mark Crosley scored a goal against us with a last-minute header. He literally did the goalie coming up at the corner and headed it in.
Didn't Crossley Is he the only man to save a Matty penalty
He
as well?
is. He is like the absolute.
What is he doing?
He's like kryptonite to Southampton.
He's not Bet Noir.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Not
So
good at all.
It scares
But
me.
also, isn't it? I like it because it's one of the. I like any fixture that was one of the sort of first Premier League fixtures.
Yeah.
So Swindon, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, any of those, and I think Sheffield United has a really good ring to it. I think it'll be great, and also Sheffield's a great city. It'll be a really good day out for Saints fans.
Yeah, it will be. Not so much for the Saints fans doing hypnobirthing classes, but anyway, there we go. Tom, should we move on to the transfer outs?
Yeah.
Moy Elianusi to Celtic. Good bit of
Who?
business.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a broader issue here, isn't it? Which is like, God, we've signed some players that are totally unsuited to Saints and lack the quality. And now the Elianusi going to Celtic to play, 3 or 4 difficult games a season tells you everything you need to know. It's just, I don't know. He's just a classic. You'll just never see him. He'll be a pub quiz answer, won't he? I just don't know what to say to him. I mean, I was there against Newcastle when he had a rare start, and he just looked totally, utterly unsuited to playing Premier League football, like he'd won a competition.
Yeah. Let's go through some of the other loans. I mean, Freddie and I talked about Fraser Forster. I think that's good news for him. Carrijo. God, do you remember how we agonised about how he pronounced his name? And basically it just wasn't important because the only news is that he's off to Leganés, which, surprise, surprise, that's where Pellegrino is manager.
Yeah, I mean, bad rubbish follows bad rubbish, or whatever the saying is. I think it's just, again, so much money. And one of the things, and I think it's really worth, we spoke about it before, it's really worth hammering home, is that we spent £18 million on that guy.
Mm.
Like, he's not like a 22-year-old. He's 28.
Yeah.
So has no resale value, or limited resale value, even if he had been a moderate success with Saints. So it's just such a bizarre bit of business. And I think that, I don't know, how do you explain that a club without a huge amount of money, in dire situations, spends £18 million on a player recommended for a manager that they know is probably, that everyone knew was out of a job pretty soon anyway. It's such a weird thing.
It is a weird thing.
And also, he's not like set the world on fire with is it Leganés or
Leganés, yeah.
Leganés, he was pretty poor over there as well.
Yeah. Wesley Hoot is another one out the doors.
Antwerp.
Royal Antwerp, yeah.
Yeah. What a disappointment. I mean, you were there at Palace, weren't you, John, that game when I think it was his debut? He
was great. I mean, I think you and I were watching Wesley Hoot and Mario Lemina both playing a fantastic game. We thought, wow, we've bought 2 absolutely brilliant players here. But they're 2 players whose egos are beyond their skills, which is just a really big problem.
Well, it's funny, I looked at Hoyt's Twitter, I think, or his Instagram earlier, and I noticed he didn't have a Southampton footballer. It just said, like, Wesley Hoyt. Obviously he's fallen out of, like, he's throwing his toys out the pram. So, it's almost like quite embarrassing. They, like, whether he likes it or not, Saints were still paying him. And, again, like, one of the terrible things about all these players that are loaning out is, I bet you we're still on the hook for the majority of their wages. And these are all players, I bet you, on big, big money for Saints.
Yeah.
These are all Champions League players, apart from Carrillo, really. Yeah. We're probably paying, for Saints, 60, 70 grand for each of these players, and they've all been. If you try and think of anything, Hoyt had no positive impact. Carrillo had less than 0. Elianusi, I would have put there in the less than 0 category, and I guess the next one to come up is tonic like limonade or whatever the hell he said was. So.
Tonic like lemonade, Mario Lemina. Oh, mate.
What tit.
I mean, the hilarious thing here is that he's like fishing for this move to Manchester United, reposting a video which has got the speed of the video sped up and isn't even exclusively Mario Lemina footage. It has some great skills from Nathan Redmond in there, and he retweets it. And nobody who's doing that on their Twitter is about to get a move to one of the big clubs, are they?
I mean, it makes me laugh because it's almost like his ego must be so great that he feels, and also his sense of immaturity, that he feels, oh, that's what's going to get me the move.
Yeah.
When you can, he's been moved on from Juve. Saints, clearly, for Ralph, he doesn't fit the bill as a person. I think it's probably safe to say, or as someone who can consistently apply the talent that he has. And, he is then shipped around Europe. Every club, I imagine, will have taken a look at him. From what Wolves, you just run through the clubs he's linked to. So Arsenal, Man United, Wolves, Everton, Monaco, I think like Fiorentina. He's been linked with, clubs almost on every single European big league, and everyone has turned him down.
Yeah. And
now he's going to the Super League in Turkey, which is, it's not going to exactly put him in the window, is it, for that big move back to one of the top Italian or Spanish teams?
No, I mean, is Galatasaray in Istanbul?
Yeah, I think they are, aren't they? They must be.
Yeah. I mean, Istanbul's a cool city, so good luck to him there. I thought the interesting thing is, I think if we go through those players like Mario Lemina, Mohamed Elyounoussi, Guido Carrillo and Wesley Hoot, that is their transfer fees coming in, and this is not even accounting for their wages, which combined would be more than what Virgil van Dijk was, but that's all of Virgil van Dijk money and then some.
It's all gone.
All gone. Nada left.
And that's it. That's it. We signed, let's face it, the best player that Saints are probably going to sign in our generation, and then we squandered all of that money. It's, and it's just totally insane. And Les Reed and the others need to take a real hard look at themselves.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do that. So anyway, we should move on.
No, they're not. You're right.
Tom, do we have any other business?
Any AOB? I don't think so. I think that's we covered a lot of ground, but it's been really good to catch up, John.
Yeah, it has been really good to catch up. I'm also at the end of my beer, which of course was free from beer52.com/Saints. Get onto that. Make sure you get yourself a free box of beer. Tom, it's always a delight to speak to you. If any of you Saints FC podcast listeners want to get in touch, you can do so, saintsfcpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to know your thoughts on this podcast, any of the transfers, any of the games coming up, Ralph's 4-2-2-2 formation. Get anything you'd like to state on the podcast. And also, we haven't made Tom sing any songs in like a disco theme for a while. So I think we need some more kind of it's normally like to the tune of Ra Ra Rasputin, isn't it? Or something like that, or Daddy Cool for you. So some disco-themed Saints songs for Tom to try and sing down the line to us. That would be great. So anyway, that's it from us. Tom, say ta-ta to our listeners.
Goodbye, everyone.
Cheer, everyone. And hey, let's hope for a really good result up in Sheffield at the weekend.
I'll have half an eye on it, that's for sure.
Oh, Tom, always good to talk.